The teacher didn't even look up. The officer didn't say a word, just grabbed him by the collar in the middle of math class and slammed him face first into the floor. Students screamed. One recorded, but the principal told them to delete it. His mother didn't know he was gone until dinner, and by then, he was already labeled a gang suspect. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. Get your hands off me, shouted Malik as the officer dragged him across the linoleum floor of Roosevelt High. But nobody moved. No one, not the teacher, not the principal, not the students, said a word. Just 5 minutes ago, Malik Daniels had been solving a math equation on the whiteboard. He was top of the class, 16 years old, a quiet kid who stayed late to help clean up. Now he was face down, handcuffed, and bleeding from his cheek. Officer Coyle didn't read him his rights. He didn't explain why he was being detained. He just kept pressing his knee into Malik's back like it was a routine traffic stop. He fits the description, said the officer coldly. What description? Asked Ms. Hernandez, the teacher, finally finding her voice. Black male. Hoodie. That's enough. Malik was wearing his school uniform. His backpack was still at his desk. He hadn't left the building all day. And yet, nobody stopped it. 2 hours later, Malik sat in a metal chair at the precinct, wrists aching, clothes torn. No guardian. No phone call. Just a paper cup of water he couldn't lift because he was still cuffed to the chair. Tell us what you were doing near Easton Street last night, said Detective Avery, flipping through a file with empty photos and meaningless paperwork. I wasn't anywhere near Easton Street, Malik replied, his voice hoarse. You sure? Surveillance caught someone running from a break-in. Looked like you. I was at home. I had class early. My mom was with me. Avery smirked. Mom's lie. You got no alibi unless someone white backs it up. Malik blinked. He'd never been arrested. He'd never even been late to school. At 7:34 p.m., his mother, Leanna Daniels, burst through the precinct lobby, breathless and crying. Where is he? Where is my son? He didn't come home. The officer at the front desk barely looked up. You'll have to wait. Wait. He's 16. She waited another 2 hours before someone finally admitted Malik had been detained for questioning. No one called her. No one read him his rights. No one logged the arrest. And inside that small, windowless room, Malik was about to find out this wasn't about evidence. This wasn't about justice. It was about what he looked like. And somebody in that building was determined to make him confess to something he didn't even understand. When they let Malik out of the chair, he couldn't feel his hands. But what he felt most was that no one had come. Not his teacher. Not his principal. Not even the coach who used to call him son. Stand up, ordered Officer Coyle. Malik tried, but his knees buckled. His wrists had gone numb hours ago. Coyle grabbed him by the collar and yanked him to his feet. Time for round 2. Malik was led down another hallway. A dark corridor with flickering lights and walls that smelled like bleach and fear. At the end of it, another room. This one colder. Detective Avery stood waiting with a file in one hand and a coffee in the other. Let's try this again, he said calmly, like he was offering homework help. You were seen running. Easton Street. Last night. Black hoodie. Slim build. You match. That's enough. Malik didn't speak. Where were you really? Still nothing. Avery leaned down. Look, kid. You're not some victim. You're a suspect. I can hold you for 72 hours. No phone. No attorney. Juvenile status doesn't mean what you think it means. Malik swallowed. I was home. Got proof? My mom. My homework. You can check. Avery smiled thinly. You really think they'll check? Meanwhile, in the front lobby, Leanna Daniels sat in a cold plastic chair, gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. She had shown the officer her ID. She had told them her son had never been in trouble. She had begged. They told her to wait. She had been waiting for 5 hours. A tired woman in a gray uniform finally emerged. Ma'am, he's still being interviewed. You'll need to come back in the morning. I'm not leaving, Leanna said. Then you'll be sitting a long time. No one offered her water. No one told her what he was being accused of. No one even said he'd be okay. She cried quietly into her sleeve. Back in the interrogation room, Malik's head hung low. Avery dropped a sheet of paper in front of him. This is a written statement. Says you admit to attempting to break into a store near Easton Street. We don't need a full confession. Just a signature. Malik stared at it. But I didn't do anything. Then prove it. Sign, and we'll look into your alibi. Don't sign. And maybe we lose the security footage from your school. Maybe we say you were truant. Malik blinked. He realized something then. This wasn't about truth. It was about submission. And for the first time in his life, he felt completely invisible. Alone. Replaceable. Disposable. He didn't sign. They left him in the cold room with the lights on all night. No bed. No blanket. No answers. Just silence. And behind a two-way mirror, someone was already writing the next day's report. A report that didn't mention his grades, or his volunteer work, or his perfect attendance. Just his skin. And a hoodie. The school issued a statement. We are cooperating with law enforcement. Malik read it from a crumpled newspaper on the detention bench. He realized they never even said his name. By morning, Malik hadn't slept. His body ached from the metal bench. His mouth was dry. His mind fogged over. At 9:12 a.m., Officer Coyle returned with breakfast, a slice of dry toast and something in a paper cup that tasted like metal. Malik asked, again, to call his mother. Later, Coyle said. After you cooperate. At Roosevelt High, the announcement skipped his name. No mention of the incident. No explanation to students. No meeting with parents. Just silence. In the front office, Principal Meyer sat with her hands folded, watching local news coverage. A reporter read a short blurb. A 16-year-old juvenile is being questioned in connection with a series of break-ins on Easton Street. Authorities have not released further details. She turned off the screen. We can't afford the attention, she said to her assistant. The district already warned us about optics. But Malik's in your honors program, the assistant whispered. Meyer shook her head. Let's wait to see what the police say. By noon, Malik was moved into a larger holding cell. 3 older boys sat in the corners, silent and guarded. He recognized one from a different school. They didn't speak. At 12:47 p.m., a different officer brought him paperwork. You've been listed as a person of interest in an active investigation. Malik's voice cracked. What does that mean? Means you'll be staying with us for a while. Meanwhile, Liana Daniels had called every contact she could think of. School board. Local pastor. A cousin in family court. No one returned her messages. She went to Roosevelt High herself. Why didn't anyone call me yesterday? Why didn't the school stop them? Principal Meyer met her in the office. Ma'am, the officers had a warrant. We couldn't interfere. What warrant? You didn't even ask for proof. We're cooperating fully. Meyer repeated like a script. This is a sensitive matter. Liana stared at her. He's a child. He's being investigated, Meyer replied, turning away. That's when Liana noticed something on Meyer's desk. An envelope with the district's legal counsel letterhead. They were already protecting themselves. Not Malik. Back in holding, Malik folded the paper they gave him. He didn't understand the language. Person of interest. Investigation pending. Possible detainment. He wasn't charged yet, but everything around him treated him like he already was. He sat quietly, hands in his lap, trying to remember what it felt like to be in class. To solve an equation. To hear Ms. Hernandez say, good work. He wondered if she was thinking about him now. He wondered if anyone was. Because after 24 hours, no lawyer came. No counselor. No teacher. No one. Only silence. And suspicion. And the label that stuck hardest of all. Suspect. They didn't give him a lawyer. They gave him a clipboard. And a woman in a white coat who smiled too much and never said the word innocent. Only agitated, resistant, and non-compliant. Malik had now been in custody for 38 hours. He hadn't spoken in nearly 5. Not because he was stubborn. Because he was empty. No charges had been filed. No hearing scheduled. No public defender assigned. But now, there was paperwork. It's just a routine check, said Officer Coyle, unlocking his cell. A quick eval. Make sure you're stable. Stable. The word sat wrong in Malik's chest. He followed Coyle down a hallway he hadn't seen before. No windows. Fluorescent lights. Medical smell. Room 6C. A woman waited with a clipboard. Dr. Marin. She didn't shake his hand. She just pointed to a chair. Malik, do you know where you are? She asked gently. He nodded. Do you know what day it is? He paused, then whispered. Thursday? She made a mark on her page. Have you ever been arrested before? No. Ever experienced feelings of rage or uncontrollable emotion? Malik blinked. What kind of question was that? I'm here by mistake, he muttered. That's not what I asked, she replied, still smiling. He looked down. I don't want to talk anymore. She nodded, jotted something. Nonverbal under pressure. He looked up. That's not what I meant. More notes. Malik suddenly realized she wasn't listening. She was labeling. Back at Roosevelt High, a rumor spread. Did you hear? Malik went crazy. No, I heard he had a knife. My cousin said he's in juvie. No teacher corrected them. Ms. Hernandez had asked if she could address the class. Principal Meyer said no. We don't have confirmed facts, she claimed. But she hadn't asked for them either. The school posted a second statement. We prioritize student safety and trust the authorities to complete their process. In room 6C, Malik sat in silence as Dr. Marin reviewed his chart. Finally, she said, based on your behavior, I'm recommending temporary observation. What does that mean? He asked. Just a few more days. In a different facility. For mental wellness. I'm not sick. It's not a diagnosis, Malik. It's a precaution. At 6:42 p.m., his mother was told her son had been moved. She was not told where. She was not allowed to see him. She was not allowed to object. She was handed a new document, mental health observation order, and asked to sign. She refused. They filed it anyway. Malik watched the city blur past through the van window. Hands cuffed again. A new destination. A new label. Not criminal. Now unstable. Still not proven guilty. But further from freedom than ever before. They didn't hit him. They didn't scream. They didn't lock him in a dark room. They just smiled, wrote things down, and kept him alone long enough to make him question whether anyone even remembered he existed. The new facility was smaller, cleaner, but colder. Malik had no idea where he was. The van had driven nearly an hour from the precinct. The guards didn't speak. The windows were tinted. He entered through a side door. No signs. No names. Just 2 words on a badge. Youth evaluation. The halls were white. Too white. Every room smelled like lemon and medicine. The walls had no clocks. No sounds. No mirrors. Only cameras. He was given sweatpants. No drawstrings. A paper-thin t-shirt. Slippers. And a room with a bed bolted to the floor. No phone. No contact. No answers. The first interview happened 17 hours later. A woman named Ms. Voss sat across from him. She wore all beige. Do you know why you're here? She asked. No, Malik replied. His voice barely a whisper. She nodded. Do you feel angry? Yes. Why? He looked at her. Because no one's telling me anything. She wrote something down. Have you experienced hallucinations? Sudden aggression? Self-harm? No. She didn't react. Just wrote. Do you think the world is out to get you? Malik stared at her. He wanted to say no. But something about the question, the way she phrased it, as if even the truth could be twisted. He didn't answer. She wrote again. Refusal to engage. Meanwhile, Liana Daniels had contacted a local legal aid nonprofit. After 27 calls, one attorney finally called her back. His name was Carson Reed. He sounded unsure. There's no formal charge? Nothing, she said. Just evaluation. They won't even tell me the location. Reed paused. That's unusual. No, it's wrong. Reed asked her to send everything she had, dates, papers, copies. I'll look into it, he promised. But if there's no official record, this could be complicated. Back in his cell, Malik paced the walls. Counted the tiles. Recounted. He thought about Ms. Hernandez. Did she try to call? Did anyone? He thought about Coach Williams. His friends. His phone. Was it still in his locker? Did his school books miss him? He laughed at himself for thinking that. On the third day, during lunch, he overheard something. 2 staff members speaking near the doorway. One said, He's the one from Roosevelt. The Daniels kid. That's him? Yeah. The target case. You mean test case? They looked up. Saw him watching. The door shut. Malik sat still. That word rang in his skull. Target. He wasn't just a suspect. He wasn't just a number. He was part of something else. Something bigger. And suddenly, the silence made sense. It wasn't confusion. It was design. They kept watching him. Taking notes. Whispering. But now, Malik was watching too. Every camera. Every footstep. Every word. If they were building a case, so was he. Malik stopped sleeping. Not out of fear. Out of strategy. At night, the hallway outside his door echoed with quiet movement. Rubber-soled shoes, keys that didn't jingle, carts that didn't squeak. Everything in this place was too controlled. He started listening. Every footstep had a rhythm. Every door a pattern. The guards walked in shifts. 2 a.m. rounds. For a.m. notes. 6 a.m. tray carts. He memorized them all. Then, the lights flickered at 3:07 a.m. 2 nights in a row. Not random. A signal? On the fourth interview, Malik asked a question. Why do your notes go straight to precinct records? Ms. Voss blinked, then smiled. You don't need to worry about that. That's not an answer. She tapped her pen against her folder. You're not on trial, Malik. Yet, that word changed the temperature in the room. She leaned back. Who told you that? He didn't answer. Her smile faded, and for the first time, she wrote slower. At Roosevelt High, 2 students tried to hang a poster. Where is Malik Daniels? It was removed within 15 minutes. Ms. Hernandez received a memo from administration. Please refrain from discussing unresolved matters involving legal investigations. Violations may result in suspension. She folded it carefully and kept it. Back in his cell, Malik began to track everything. He used paper napkins for meals to scratch notes, guard names, clipboard initials, timestamps. He hid them under his mattress, wrapped in plastic from his dinner trays. The staff thought he was shutting down, but inside, he was organizing. One evening, he was taken to the rec room, an empty space with a ping-pong table, a chair, and a screen playing looped cartoons. A boy around his age sat across the room. Same outfit, same cuffs. He didn't speak. Just watch Malik. Finally, he said, You from Roosevelt? Malik nodded. You too? The boy smiled, bitter. Was. He tapped the side of his head. Careful what you say to the wellness team. They write down everything, even your silences. I know, Malik said. They're building something. Malik nodded. So am I. Later that night, as Malik lay in his cot, he whispered to himself. If they want a report, I'll give them one. He began to plan it in his head, section by section. Not just what they did, but when, where, who. Because they had made a mistake. They assumed he was helpless. They forgot he was observant, smart, and angry. Very quietly, Malik smiled in the dark. They wanted him quiet, passive, afraid. Instead, he filed a written request citing his constitutional rights. On a napkin, in pencil, and suddenly, people started paying attention. The next day, during his evaluation block, Malik handed Ms. Voss a folded napkin. What's this? She asked. My official statement. She looked confused. Unfolded it. Inside were 4 lines, printed neatly. I am being held without formal charges. I have not been read my rights. I am requesting contact with legal representation under Miranda and juvenile due process. This is a written record of that request. Ms. Voss blinked. Where did you learn that? Civics. Freshman year. She didn't speak for a moment, then stood up. I'll need to discuss this with administration. Malik leaned back. Please do. That afternoon, 2 men he hadn't seen before entered his room. Dark suits. Clipboards. Badges with initials, not names. Mr. Daniels, one of them said, we're here to clarify your current placement. Am I charged? You're under observation. Is that a legal term? The man glanced at his colleague. It's a designation pending further review. Have I been declared a threat? Silence. Then why am I being held? The second man finally spoke. Because your behavioral profile triggered a policy-based intervention. Malik narrowed his eyes. You mean a black honors student with perfect attendance who asked why he was arrested? They didn't answer. They just made notes. But slower this time. Back at Roosevelt High, the counselor's inbox was flooded with messages from concerned parents. Some had heard whispers. Others saw the statement the school posted. One mother wrote, My son plays basketball with Malik. If he can get taken out of class like that, what about mine? Principal Meyer instructed staff to use this script. The incident is under review. We encourage students and parents to direct questions to local authorities. In the facility, Malik requested access to a book. When they asked which one, he replied, U.S. Juvenile Rights Handbook. The nurse raised an eyebrow. That's not in our library. You should order it. He smiled. Not as a joke, but as a warning. By evening, he was moved to a different room. Same bed, same walls, but no cameras, no clock. More isolated. He understood what they were doing. Move him, silence him, contain him. But it was too late. He'd already started the process. In the next interview, Ms. Voss tried to change tone. We understand this has been difficult. Then release me. Malik. You have my request. In writing. She frowned. You seem agitated. I seem awake. That's silence again. He leaned in. You want to build a profile? Here's a new word. Non-compliant. She paused. We already used that one. Then add this. Aware. And for the first time since it all began. She had no response. They tried to bury him in silence. But silence works both ways. Malik didn't yell. He didn't fight. He submitted a second napkin, this time with names, dates, and staff violations. And now, the facility director wanted a meeting. By day 6, Malik had memorized the schedule down to the second. Breakfast trays arrived at 7:01 a.m. Rounds at 9 o'clock. Observation interviews between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. At 2:15 p.m., they switched staff. At 4:45, the hallway lights dimmed. Never earlier. Never later. He wrote it all down. He tracked inconsistencies. And then he folded napkin number 2. It was thicker than the first. Titled, Incidents and Irregularities Observed by Detainee #17-614, Malik Daniels. Tuesday, room 3C not checked during overnight round. Wednesday, interview tape stopped at 13:24, resumed at 13:31, audio inconsistent. Thursday, staff J, Kraus entered room without gloves or witness. Marked private evaluation. At the bottom, he added, submitted in accordance with internal reporting rights per Juvenile Facility Act Section 19.05. If this is not the correct process, please advise in writing. He slid it under the security office door. The response came faster than expected. That evening, he was escorted not to the interview room, but to an office. Neutral walls. No cameras. A woman in her 50s waited at the desk. Dark suit. Sharp eyes. Malik, I'm Director Nolan. He didn't speak. She gestured for him to sit. I've read your reports. Still silence. She folded her hands. You're very thorough. He finally nodded. I pay attention. We don't usually receive internal memos from minors. Maybe you should. That paused her. Then, I'd like to talk about your case. Malik leaned forward slightly. Do I have one? She hesitated. Technically, not yet. Then what am I doing here? She didn't answer. She opened a file. But Malik noticed it wasn't his. It was hers. Notes. Directives. A post-it marked. Legal risk. High if retained past 10 days. He saw her glance at it, then quickly closed the folder. Too late. He'd already read it. At Roosevelt High, Coach Williams finally cracked. He told a local pastor what had happened. The pastor, in turn, called someone on the city education board. The word lawsuit was whispered. And just like that, someone from the district called the Daniels home. Left a voicemail. We're conducting a review. You'll be hearing from legal soon. Liana didn't know whether to cry or laugh. She just pressed repeat on the message. Twice. Back at the facility, Malik waited. He knew what that post-it meant. 3 more days. Then someone, somewhere, would be in trouble for still holding him. And if they didn't move fast, he would. Because now he knew the law, knew the timelines, knew their language. They taught him how to fight. By trying to silence him. They called it a transfer for security reasons. But Malik knew what it really meant. Remove him before day 10. Before legal exposure. Before the napkins became subpoenas. But this time, someone was already waiting on the other side. The next morning, 2 guards entered Malik's room without knocking. You're being moved, said one. On whose authority? Malik asked. No answer. They handed him a paper to sign. He didn't. He folded it. Put it in his pocket. Director Nolan didn't speak to him again. She watched from behind a glass panel as he was led down the hallway. Expression unreadable. Hands clasped. Still. But she knew. He'd seen the note. He'd done the math. And now he was counting down hours. So were they. In the transport van, Malik sat cuffed, but upright. No fear. Just focus. He didn't know where they were taking him. They'd blacked out the windows again. But the clipboard in the guard's hand had a label. Behavioral Containment Facility, Intake Order #D4403. He read it upside down. Memorized it. Back at Roosevelt High, the district finally made contact with Liana Daniels. A man in a gray suit introduced himself as Deputy Counsel for Internal Affairs. He brought a file. But Liana brought something too. The voicemail. The napkin notes Malik had mailed her secretly through a kitchen worker. A printed copy of the school's vague press release. And one question. Where is my son? The man didn't answer. But his phone buzzed. And after reading the message, his expression shifted. Something had changed. The van stopped. The door opened. But before the guards could move, another vehicle pulled in behind them. Unmarked. Government plate. A tall man in a black coat stepped out, holding a folder. I'm here for Malik Daniels, he said calmly. I suggest you don't move him another inch. Who are you? Asked the guard. His legal representative. Filed under emergency jurisdiction, case hashtag C18-9217. You can call it in. The guard hesitated. But the man wasn't bluffing. You'll find the motion was signed an hour ago. Any transfer now constitutes obstruction. Malik's eyes widened. He didn't know this man, but he'd expected someone like him. Not a rescuer. Not a hero. Just a response. Triggered by strategy. By documentation. By evidence. He created it. Word by word. Napkin by napkin. Day by day. The guard made the call. The response was quick. Cancel transfer. Return to holding. Wait for legal to arrive. The door shut. And Malik, for the first time in 9 days, leaned his head back. And exhaled. Not because it was over. Because it wasn't. But because they had tried everything. And failed. They'd underestimated the one thing that never showed up on their paperwork. Intelligence. No apology. No charges dropped. No investigation launched. Just a door opened, a file sealed, and a silent escort back to a school that never stood up for him. But Malik didn't need their permission to return. Only his own decision to keep walking forward. It ended like it began. Quietly. Malik was escorted to the front desk of the facility by 2 staff members who wouldn't look him in the eye. A single envelope was handed to him. Inside, 1 folded sweatshirt, 1 student ID, a bus pass, and a form marked discharge complete. No charges filed. No record. No explanation. At the curb, a car waited. His mother stood outside it. When she saw him, she didn't cry. She just opened the door. He sat beside her. Neither spoke for 10 minutes. Then she whispered, "I'm proud of you." Malik looked out the window. For surviving? She shook her head. For making them speak your name. Back at Roosevelt High, news spread before he arrived. Malik's coming back? He got out? What happened? Teachers were told not to comment. Students were told not to film. The school was told to prepare support resources. Malik just walked in through the main doors. No fanfare. Just silence. And then, 1 student stood. Then another. And another. A chain reaction of quiet acknowledgement. Not celebration. Recognition. Not of what he went through, but of what he revealed. Principal Meyer approached him in the hallway. "Malik, if you ever need to talk." He passed her without stopping. Not out of disrespect. Out of clarity. She'd made her choice. So had he. Later that week, a local paper ran a 3-paragraph story. Teen released after misidentification. Officials declined to comment further. No photo. No apology. Just a footnote. But Malik didn't need headlines. He had a stack of napkins at home. Documented. Numbered. Sealed. One day, he'd use them again. Maybe for a scholarship essay. Maybe for court. Maybe for someone else who wouldn't get 9 days to speak for themselves. He sat in math class again the following Monday. Same seat. Same board. Different boy. Ms. Hernandez smiled at him, softly. "You're early." Malik nodded. Just needed to solve for X. She didn't understand what he meant. But she didn't have to. He opened his notebook and started writing again. This time, not equations, but the beginning of something new. Something precise. Something undeniable. Something permanent. He wasn't just back. He was prepared. Prepared to be the kind of threat the system never sees coming. A free black mind that knows how to write. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.